Which side would you choose?
Oh man, like if it was real life, I don't. You know, I have to go back to with like what I said, like the first episode where like the whole legality of it. But honestly, the thing that has changed from playing a little bit more on the other side, I don't see how I could like choose pro registration, or like I'd be like Spider-Man. Like if I chose it because well, it's what you know, it's the government. You can't go against the government. I don't think it'd be very many weeks before I was like, okay. Because here's the thing: not only is it that you feel bad, but they're using very unethical tactics. The whole prison thing was pretty. You can argue whatever.
The nanites and the thunderbolts.
The nanites, like subverting people's will and controlling them. Some of the different things they do. What was one of the other ones?
I always found that weird.
Oh, the other thing that really bothered me was I understand the whole Registration Act. Like, okay, you have to register, and we had this whole long conversation. I wish we recorded about if it's ethical. And like I was talking about, well, if you have to register a gun, well, why wouldn't you have to register if you have the ability to blow something up with your hands or your mind? So we had this whole long conversation. But the thing that bothered me is not just that you have to register. That I don't like it. I'm okay with it because you have to register a gun. It kind of makes sense. And it would cut down a lot of crime and stuff. But the problem in accidents and stuff, but the problem was you're not just registering, you're also mandatory, you're now a super cop in SHIELD. And that is like, not only is it registration, but it's also, draft. And I don't like the draft, the idea of the draft. I understand why they did it in World War II and stuff, but like I don't like that, oh, just because you were born with superpowers, you have to be in SHIELD now. You have to register. And I understand registering for safety, but not to register and now you're a part of SHIELD. And you have to accept our shady tactics. So with everything I've seen with hindsight, because they say hindsight 2020, I definitely think I would have to end up picking Cap's side. And if I don't have hindsight and I'm going through it, I think I would have ended up, unless I talked to Cap personally and I just followed my gut, because my gut was saying you need to go with Cap, I would have...
It's like you can't not talk to Cap and be like...
I would have either picked Cap's side, or I would have like picked Tony's side, the pro registration, and within a few weeks I would have ended up switching. And as soon as I start talking to Tony and I start seeing their tactics, I would have defected in a couple of weeks. There's no way I would have stayed on the pro registration side.
My thing is like, I can understand registration if you do something, there's an accident, and you cause damage or whatever, and so you get hauled in and then you have to register. That's one thing. Or
you don't think it's fair just because they're born with it.
Just because you're born with it, I don't think you should just
have to be registered. And I understand that, but I think at the same time that, yeah, it sucks that you're born that way and it's not necessarily fair, but it's less fair to other people. Like, how do you explain to someone that their kid is dead because someone sitting next to them in high school wasn't registered and sneezed and blew your kid's head off, you know? Like, to me, that's less fair. Like, I understand that, like, the gun analogy is not the best because you choose to have a gun. And you're saying, well, they don't choose this. And I'm saying, well, it doesn't matter if they choose it or not. They're still born with guns in their hands. And so they still should be registered just for common sense-wise. Because otherwise you hit puberty, you start getting superpowers. That's dangerous. What if you don't know it?
Yeah, but like,
what if you manifest super strength and you don't know it and you get in the middle of a fight and you kill someone in a fist fight?
That's what I'm saying. Like, they already have in this world.
So they have to kill someone before they have to register.
I mean, it's like, how do you know if somebody has superpowers or not?
When they manifest them. When they go... Oh, I just picked up a car.
Yeah,
wow.
That's what I'm saying. It's like, by then it's already too late. Usually that's what I'm saying.
No,
if there's an accident and there's property damage,
you know, like you wake up one day, you start growing scales. You go down to, you know, I was talking about like the DMV. You go down to register for a driver's license. You become a certain age. You go down to register. Well, if you get powers, whether you spill chemicals on you or you're a mutant and you all of a sudden you become aware of them. As soon as you become aware of them, you would have to register. Just like as soon as you start driving, before you know, like you would need to go and you have to be checked out to make sure you're not dangerous. Because someone like Molten Man or something who would just turn into like molten lava and start catching the school on fire. I mean, I keep going back to the high school example, you know, and like kids would just start burning alive and stuff. Like, yeah, you need to be taught how to use that. You know what I mean? So like, but not made into a cop.
Yeah, I mean, I could understand registering.
We're at 15 minutes. Oh. Go ahead and say it really quick.
But if we had, like, if there was registration and it caused it so that schools like Xavier started popping up everywhere, and so you have special schools for these people.
Well, of course it's going to be privatized. There's money in it.
But I don't understand the thing of, you're registered, so now everyone's going to look at you crazy because now you have
okay,
a card
that's not okay, but that's not true. You know what? Let's cut real quick and come back to this. Okay, so that's not necessarily true because people don't know if you have a driver's license or not. They just assume. Like, my wife doesn't drive. No one knows that until she tells them. So people don't go like, oh, well, you have a driver's, you know what I mean? Like, I understand driver's license is a good thing, but just because you're registered to drive doesn't mean people know it. People can assume or not. So just because, now again, if you're born with like mystique and you have blue skin, but that's no different than if you're born with like one arm missing as a deformity. It sucks, and it's horrible, but you know what I mean? Like, that's just where life's not fair. Like, there's nothing we can do. We can't go and like magically make, you know, an infant have another arm because we don't think it's fair that they're born without an arm. So yeah, those who are born with physical manifestations of powers, yeah, everyone's going to know they have superpowers, but everyone's going to know if someone has like Down syndrome because you can just see it.
I can already see.
So what's
a cop pulls somebody over on the side of the road, pulls their ID and everything, and looks at it and is like, oh, this guy has the ability to turn his limbs into small arms machine guns or something like that.
Wouldn't you want to know that as a cop pulling someone over?
I can see that guy. He's going to get hauled in. I mean, he could be like Colossus and would never hurt a fly. But still, that guy's not going to be pulled in, and it's like, let me see your hands, sir.
No. I think it's the opposite, because you're not going to want to arrest a guy who can turn into a small infantry and blast you. You're going to be like, yeah, I'm going to have to write you up for that. You know what I mean? Like, I don't see them go, oh, you can turn in, you know, like, why would they, like, they don't, if they pull you over, and if you're registered, if it shows like you're registered, like if a cop pulls someone over, and I'm not registered to have a concealed weapon, so I don't know if it shows on your license or what, but if you're pulled over and the cop finds out that you have a concealed license, he's not going to arrest you because you have a gun on you.
But if
you're registered for it, and he's not going to assume you're a criminal. If he goes, oh, you're registered and you have a concealed weapon, okay, well, get out of the car. You're doing something wrong. You know what I mean? He's going to be like, okay, obviously if he's registered, he's probably not doing anything wrong with it, because why would he be registered? Criminals don't register. People who aren't using a gun inappropriately do register. So I don't see how a cop is going to want to pull someone over just because they're registered. Now, yeah, if there is I can see how there could be some stuff like, oh, well, there's a crime, this building was burned down, and you're registered with flame powers, but that's no different than going, oh, well, you're Indian, so we're going to stop you in an airport because 9/11 just happened 6 months ago, and we're stopping all Indians because we're freaked out right now. The prejudice is always going to be around, and I don't see why, you know what I mean? Like, what's the difference of a guy going, some stupid cop, I don't think this would happen very often, but let's say you're right, some stupid cop is prejudiced and goes, oh, he's registered, he can turn his arm into machine guns, and arrest him just for that. What's the difference of that or a cop like pulling someone over just because they're black or Mexican?
So wrong.
Yeah, either way. So what's the difference? I'm saying is, well,
and that's illegal. Like, you can't.
Yeah, but that's not. I don't think it's gonna like cause that. And if it does, that same cop is just a bad cop. There's no difference of he's gonna be the same cop that's pulling over anyone that's not his nationality. If he's white, he's gonna be pulling over black and Mexican. If he's black, he's gonna be pulling over white guys because he hates. You know what I mean? Like, he's a bad cop. So if he's arresting someone just because they're registered, he's just a bad cop. And they're not. Yeah, it's gonna be a hassle, but they're not gonna. It's not gonna stay. You can't arrest someone for that. You know. So it's like you can't arrest someone because you're like, oh, well, he's this nationality in this opposite kind of neighborhood. So, you know, like, when you can't make that stick. Yeah, they can be pulled in and harassed, but it's not like, oh, well, all of a sudden everyone who's registered is going to be arrested like that. I just don't see it happening, and when it does happen, I don't see it as being any different than any other kind of prejudice. I'm not saying it's okay or it's right, just like I don't think if you go, oh, well, people look at them differently because they have green or blue skin. Well, but that's no different than someone who's born with an obvious handicap. Again, it doesn't make it right, but it's not any different. It's still going to be, you know what I mean? Like, we live in a crappy world, so people are going to judge. If you go to school and you're born with some sort of superpower that gives you blue skin, kids are going to be a jerk about it. But they're also going to be a jerk if you are born with a stuttering problem and you stutter in class. They're going to make fun of you. Either way, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think the registering, that just makes it safer for everyone else around them. Because if you're going to go to arrest someone who has the ability to, you know, like, oh, this guy, he just, you know, like, oh, he just robbed a bank, you know, I caught him. Well, but he has the ability to stretch out and get out of handcuffs. you're going to want to know that before you try to, like, or you can turn on machine guns. You're not going to want to pull that guy over. Like, you're not going to want to try to arrest him yourself. You're going to go back to your car and call for backup. And be like, you know, because just like if you pull a guy over and you look in the back of his car, you see a bunch of machine guns, you run his license and you see that this car was stolen, you're not going to walk back up to him and go, sir, you know, you're going to call for backup. So, like, I don't really see, yeah, it's going to suck for the people who don't want powers, who have them, but what's the difference between not wanting your powers and not wanting a physical deformity or a mental deformity? It's, you know what I mean? Like, I don't see registration as making that big of a difference.
Like you said, like, criminals don't register their weapons. And it's like, if somebody's going to, like, be a criminal and he's going to be doing things, it's like, he's just going to not be registered. And so it's just still, the only people that you're going to know have powers are the ones that are never going to use them, or the ones that are only going to be using them in places where, like in Spider-Man's instance, where he could get hurt if somebody found out that what his secret identity is and stuff.
Okay, that's his secret identity. There's a difference, like, you know.
Well, I can't register, oh, I have a gun without telling you who I am. And
no, but
like,
there's a difference between, like, the government. Like, if you join SHIELD, just like cops are unlisted, and it's now illegal to take pictures of and videos of cops. Well, that's for a different reason. But there's protections against police officers because there's still stuff there. People want revenge. Sometimes cops have had to go on witness protection. They said they're unlisted. They're not in the phone book. You can't just go, oh, officer so-and-so who arrested me. Oh, there's his address. I'm going to go kill his family. You know, there's some things. Okay, here's I guess I guess I'll give like my final example.